everyone. This is your host, Kat Corchado. Welcome to another episode, bonus episode, mind you, of Sisters in Service Down Under. Today, my guest is Yvonne Sillett. Yvonne, welcome to Sisters in Service.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
I'm good. How are things down under?
Where I live in country Victoria, it's very cold and very wet. But other than that, it's not too bad.
I'm sorry.
Because you're in summer over there, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yeah. And some extremes, actually. You know, one part of the country is hot and dry and another part of the country's got too much water. So,
right. Yeah. Well, we have a lot of water if you need any.
All right. So Yvonne is an Australian Regular Army veteran. And so I noticed, Yvonne, that your parents were both served in the Navy and you served in the Army. So my question to you is, did you pick the Army just to be different?
A lot of people ask me that question. My parents, as I said, were in the Navy, but my father was in Signal Corps in the Navy and my mother was in catering corps, so she was a cook. But once they married, Mum was automatically discharged back in those days. That was, I don't know if that happened in the States as well, but if you married in the 50s, 60s, it was automatically discharged for the female. And because Dad was in signals, I was always very intrigued with what my dad did because he could never talk about his job. Not only was he in the Navy in signals, he got out and worked for the Defence Signals Directorate, which is a very high, top secret position. And I was always curious. Kids would say, what does your dad do? And I go, I don't know. So when I went to apply to get into the Navy, there was no positions in that role. So my uncle was in signals in the Army. So I joined signals in the Army and then I found out what my dad had been doing all those years.
Fascinating. So signals is, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of classified communications?
That's exactly what it is, Kat. Spot on. Classified communications. So
awesome.
It's called the Royal Australian Signal Corps, but we are doing communications. And a lot of that was encrypted. I was a cipher operator. Yeah.
Right. I was in communications in the military. You know, we got classified information, but it wasn't really, it was classified, but back then it wasn't encrypted. So we knew everybody's business on the base.
Well, we did too. And not everything was encrypted.
Right.
So I was a keyboard operator cipher. So when I first started, I was keyboard operator. So like you, I knew everyone's business because you could see it in normal text.
Right.
But then if something had to be more top secret stuff,
to be
encrypted.
That was always encrypted.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Then you'd go into the vault and you decrypt that message.
That's exactly what we did. How?
Oh, wow. That's
we
fabulous.
We called it something different, but it's the same job. How cool is that?
Yep.
So I know that you were picked to do a very special job for female recruits. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a recruit, we did our basic training in Sydney. Now, you know Sydney Harbour. You've heard of Sydney Harbour.
Yes.
Well, the recruit training base for women then was overlooking the Sydney Harbour. So we'd be doing our drill as recruits, looking at the Sydney Harbour. It was quite amazing. And I always thought, I want to come back here. I want to be an instructor. And that was when I was an 18-year-old recruit. So when I did finally get myself into a position, I applied to do the recruit instructor selection course. And they sent me to Kapooka. Now, Kapooka is in a little place in New South Wales called Wagga Wagga, very Australian. And at Wagga Wagga, there's a military base for men only, one recruit training battalion. But what was happening is the gates of RAC school were closing at the end of 1984, and females were now going to be training with men at 1RTB in Wagga Wagga. I love saying that. And I was the very first female to instruct female recruits. So it was the very first time that females had trained at the Kapooka Army Barracks. And I was selected to be the first female corporal. So I was a section commander with 3 other corporals. 2 were females, 1 female sergeant, and the rest were all males. And we were the only females on the base pretty much. We had our admin people and we had our, catering people. But as instructors, it was just myself and 1 other female corporal. And I did that and I loved it. I got the girls off the bus at 18. As we all know, we've all been recruits. We've all got off that bus. And I was the one at the other
fresh
end.
faces.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I was the one that when they got off the bus, I was the one that yelled at them. And
you were one of those people.
I was one of those people. But you know what? It was the best job I've ever had, the most rewarding job. At that stage, when I was a recruit back in 79, it was only 6 weeks training, and we didn't have weapons. And then when I get to Kapooka to raise the first female platoon, I had to learn weapons because I had to do drill with weapons. I had to shoot weapons. I had to strip and assemble weapons. So all of a sudden, I was on a very steep learning curve. But I did that for 2 years, and I raised 8 platoons, and it was just fabulous. We had the media out there. We're on the news. It was just amazing. Yeah.
It's kind of intimidating to me to, it's one thing to shoot a weapon, but then to say, okay, you walk in, they disassembled it and they go, okay, put it back together. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I had to learn how to do that before I could teach that. And then I had to teach it. And it was very much because we were horrible people, us corporals, we had to then make them do it in a time frame. So they had to strip and assemble and clean the weapon in a certain time. Then they had to load the magazine in a certain amount of times with the SLR, ammunition.
Right.
7.62 rimless NATO round. I can't believe I still know that.
You still remember that?
Yeah. That's things just stay like your regiment number. They just stick with you, don't they?
So how much time were you allowed to, when the recruits, how much time did they get to do all of that? I'm kind of curious.
Look, I can't really remember that. I truly can't remember that, but it wasn't
was it something like really ridiculous?
Yeah, of course it was really ridiculous because everything we did, we made them do everything in really ridiculous time straits. Like, they'd been on the drill parade 1 minute and then in 2 minutes later, they had to be back out there in their PT gear.
Right.
Stuff like that. It was really impossible to do, but you did it. I did that 2 years and to this day, I don't think I've ever had anything more satisfying in a career than those 2 years. Watching these girls get off the bus and where we'd gone from a 6-week basic training, for me, it would now become a 12-week basic training for the girls, which was the same as the men.
Yeah. So they were on the same base, but they trained separately, correct?
Initially, that's right. Okay. That's right, Kat. So when we first got there, we were in a completely separate block. It was a 3-tier block and it was only women in that block. Women didn't, the girls were not supposed to go anywhere near the men. All the drill was completely separate. You'd see the males marching around, of course, but everything was separate. And even our drill was put right down the back near the firing range because they were embarrassed. I don't know what it was. But it didn't take long for them to realise that these girls are just as good as what we are.
They're tough, yes.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how many, I was there for 2 years. And in that 2 years, it was all female, male separate. But now, and many years after I left, they are now co-joined and they do everything together. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that.
But when I first started, it was just women and men completely separate. Yeah.
I think when I went to basic training, they were just getting ready to, my flight was one of the first to have a male training instructor.
Right. Yep.
And that had never happened because you had a female training instructor for females and a male for men. And I think now they're probably in the same dorm. I don't even know. It's been so long. So that's very interesting.
Because when I joined as a recruit in January 1979, now I'm giving away my age, we had male instructors back then. We had 2 male and 2 female. So we've had male instructors with the females for a long time, but we've never had the females at a male base. Yeah. So that was really huge. Yeah, that was exciting. Yeah.
So you're going through your career and you said in 1983, you realized you were a little bit different to other females and you realized you were gay. So my question is, and I'm always curious about this. I've asked this question before. Did you always know that you were different, or was it something that you go, oh, okay, that's what it is?
I think it's a combination there. Growing up, I was the youngest of 3 children. I had 2 older brothers and I was a tomboy. And my mum used to always call me a tomboy. Rather than giving me a doll, I'd go out and kick the football or skateboard or roller skate or play cricket. There's a sport, with my brothers. And I wasn't that little girl I wasn't needy. I just go out there and do what the boys did. And I was very sporty, played sport all my life and still do. And I think my mum used to often think, yeah, Yvonne is a bit different, but, that's Yvonne. And I joined the army at 18 thinking that I was a straight lady. I knew no different. I was straight out of school.
Right.
I turned 18 in the December and I joined in the January. So I came straight from school. The only gay lady I think I knew back then was Martina Navratilova, and yeah, I used to watch her play and thought, oh,
right.
She
was an
special.
Amazing tennis player. Yeah.
Wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. And her physique and everything, so there was something deep there thinking maybe, but not even thinking maybe, just thinking I'm a tomboy and this is okay. And I joined the army and I fitted in really well. I was like a hand into a glove. I loved it. I made so many friends. I still had my sport and got paid to do that. And I went out with boys. I dated men for the first 4 or 5 years of my military career. But I never felt comfortable with them. I liked them as friends, but not to be in a relationship. And then out of the blue one day, there was another lady. She was in Signal Corps and we clicked. And I thought, I'm not gay. I'm just in love with this person. That's why I kept trying to convince myself, because I know that there was a policy in place in your time, I think, and our time.
Oh, yes.
That you cannot be homosexual in the military. So I was petrified. I was petrified for 2 reasons. That I thought that I was gay, but I had a top secret clearance. And
yes.
And that was terrible. I was on a signal base and I was with a lady, and so it was very traumatic back then. Anyway, as time moved on, I did realise gay. And all these years later, as a 60-year-old lady, I'm very happy that I am gay. But it didn't help my army career at all.
Right. I know that because I had a top secret clearance too, and they would pull your clearance in a heartbeat. If you didn't pay your bills, they're like, oh, we're pulling your clearance, or they would downgrade your clearance. And
correct.
You didn't want that at all. So after you figure out, or you realize, you say, okay, this is what I am. How hard was that for you to keep it hidden or secret?
It was extremely hard. And now that was in 1983, and I was actually living on an army base. And shortly after that, I actually got a posting to Sydney. And when I went to Sydney, I lived on base there. My partner wasn't there. So I just got on with my job. I worked in a communications centre, which you'd probably be familiar with.
Absolutely.
And I would go to work every day and I'd go back to the barracks, and I just was a professional soldier, and my partner wasn't there. We'd communicate, but I knew that it was my life, my career at stake if they ever found out that I was gay. So when I was posted to Sydney, it wasn't so bad. But that's when I did my instructor's course and went off to Kapuka. And Kapuka was 16-hour days, 7 days a week. You just didn't, what it's like. The instructor
right.
comes
You do
out
your job, you go back, you eat some food, go to sleep,
that's
and
it.
Rinse and
your
repeat.
boots are always perfect, your uniform's always perfect, and they don't think you sleep, but you do, but you have no time for anything else.
Absolutely.
So I lived off base there with a straight lady, and we just went to work every day, and we were professional corporal instructors, and we both just loved it. The PE, the drill, the marching with weapons, the shooting of the weapons, we did that, and I didn't have time for anything. And then toward the end of that time, I met another lady at Kapuka who was also in signals, would you believe? And we started a relationship, and nothing was said, nothing. We just continued our life as professional soldiers by day and us by night. Then I got a posting to WA, to West Australia, to Perth. And I wanted to come home to Melbourne because my parents were here and they were getting elderly. And I went to what's only Army Barracks, which is here in Victoria, which is a signal base. And there was a witch hunt going on, unbeknownst to me. And I was not initially involved in that. It was to do with drugs at one of the units nearby. And then I am so anti-drugs. They're going, well, you've got me for drugs. What about the lesbians? And my name was mentioned. And I got called in for a security assessment interview. And they pretty much hounded me for 3 hours. And it wasn't an interview. It was an interrogation.
How did they know it was? I mean, how did your name come up?
I don't know. Well, all I know is I read my redress of grievance. I've still got it. And I read it just the other day and refreshed a lot of things for me. And apparently there was guys there that we used to all go to what we used to call the MacTier Club, which was we call it a boozer, our wet canteen.
Yes.
We'd go there and have drinks and stuff. And I knew a lot of men and women, and we had fun. But then when these guys got singled out for marijuana, that's all it was. But back then that was big. They started name dropping. And unfortunately for me, it was the wrong place at the wrong time. And anyway, when they first had word of my name, they started following me. Again, unbeknownst to me, I'd been followed. I had been followed. I didn't have any photos. Other friends of mine have photos of them in a situation with their partner.
Yeah.
So I got called into this interrogation, we'll call it.
Did you know that's what was happening when they called you in?
No, I had no idea.
Man.
I was blown away. Like, I went in thinking this is a security assessment. I'm thinking, well, I've got top secret. I haven't done anything wrong. What can this be about? And then this female staff sergeant was very lovely and sweet. And then she just said, we'll cut to the chase. We know you're a lesbian. We know you're a homosexual. We know where you've been. And I just sat there thinking, oh, my God, my career was just fading before my very eyes, you know.
Yeah.
And I denied. This went on for 3 hours. It was horrible. It was humiliating. It was embarrassing. It was every emotion, angry. Every emotion you could imagine filled me that day, because I could see my career just dissolving.
Because you don't believe it's happening. You're like, this must be a dream. This can't be happening right now. But it's reality, and you're still going, did that just happen? You know,
and that's right, Kat, because you're thinking, this is something I've wanted all my life. I'm a career soldier. I'm in for 20 years. This is not happening. Anyway, so that went on for 3 hours, and I denied. And then they said, well, we'll go easy on you if you give us some names. And I could have named 50 people that were gay, but I wasn't prepared to do that. So that was the end of that. And I went home just so distraught. And then a week later, I got confronted into the SIB, which is the military police, the detectives of the military police. I got called into there, and again, another interrogation. I got an army lawyer on board, which was great. He was very helpful, but policy versus policy, I don't think we were ever going to win. But he helped me write my redress of grievance. And anyway, long story short, I was standing receiving messages, as you do, in a comsend and as a signal corporal, and I'm ripping the messages off. I don't know if you had we had these old blind sheets.
Oh yeah,
really?
Yes, I remember those.
And they'd come through on paper.
Yes,
I remember.
It was like 3 or 4, like, you know, they were like copies of copies, you know.
Correct.
You would keep one, and then
correct.
I remember that.
And you timestamp it, right? That's exactly right. So I'm there, and I was a corporal, so I was relieving one of my SIGs who had gone off to dinner, and I've ripped off this signal. And I've gone F321707, Corporal Yvonne Sillett, security clearance, downgraded to confidential. I'm reading my own signal as it's coming out. And I've just stopped, frozen. Meanwhile, all the signals are still coming through.
Yes.
And I'm just standing there. Someone came up, are you okay? I said, no, I'm not. And I showed them, and that they took over, and the rest, they say, is history. I knew then at that point in time that I will fight this. And I did fight it, but the director of military intelligence at the time said even though I tried to fight it and explained that, but I'm a professional soldier, I raised the first female platoon, I'm a outstanding soldier, I've never done a thing wrong, and because of my sexuality, this is what you're doing.
It doesn't matter what you did prior. You know, you could have been the best of the best of the best, and they're like, yep, no, but it's like you raced. You're totally right. It was just bang, gone. That was in 19, and I elected discharge, Kat, in the end, because I thought, well, I cannot stay in the corps that I love. I will never be allowed to instruct female recruits again. And my chance of promotion, I would always be looking over my shoulder. So I did, they let me complete my 10 years, and then I elected honourable discharge because I didn't want it on my record as a dishonourable discharge. So they elected a choice. They said you can either get out or finish 10 years. Did they give you a choice? My 10 years was going to be only 2 months after this all happened. Oh, got it.
Oh, no, 6 months, 6 months after this happened. And look, in hindsight, Kat, I could have stayed in and I could have gone into a different corps. I could have gone into administration or transport, anywhere that didn't need a security clearance.
But that wasn't what you love. That's not what you wanted to do.
Correct. And I just thought I would never have chance of promotion because now they know that I'm homosexual.
Well, they would have eyes on you all the time.
100%. 100%.
You know, you would be looking over your shoulder. You're like, is that person looking at me? Is that person looking at me?
That's
no
right.
way to live, you know?
And that's how I had been living since I came out. You know, when I realized I was gay in those initial from 1983 to that time, I'd been living like that. And I wasn't prepared to, I wanted to do 20 years. That was always my dream plus. But I had to. I just had to. And it was the hardest thing. Other than losing my mother to melanoma when she was young and only 61, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I still am an advocate, and we'll get to that, and try and help people that went through something similar, because I'm still angry that I got ripped off. I got ripped off, you know, I missed out. But I did go back to defence as a civilian, and a lot of people said, "You what?" And I went back there, and I was paying people, members.
And you probably got paid more money. You know?
Yeah, I did. And I could be gay, and it didn't matter. And I didn't, you know, so I did that. So I did get my 20 years, but 10 in uniform and 10 as a civilian.
Wow. So you get out of the military, you meet, or you're with your partner, and you decide that you want to adopt, correct? You wanted a child.
But we didn't adopt.
Okay.
This is the lady that I met. Once I got out, I went into local government. So I think you understand when I say local government, like
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I got a job in local government, and my boss at the time and I formed a relationship, and we were allowed to then because I was allowed to then. I felt free. I didn't have to worry about anybody else. We ended up being together for 10 years. This is now the mid to late 90s. She said to me one day, "I want to have a child." And I said, "Well, I can't help you with that." and she said, "Well, I'm sure there's ways we can do it." So we went to our GP, who was a gay lady, and she said, "Yeah, we can make this work." She said, "But there's one problem." She says, "It's not legal in Victoria, our home state, for gay women to have children." So we went through a process. It was a long, tiresome process. We finally got a doctor or specialist that would help us. And my partner ended up falling pregnant, but we had to cross the border into New South Wales, which is a 4-hour drive from Melbourne, just so she could be inseminated with an unknown donor sperm.
Wow.
And she didn't fall pregnant until the 7th attempt. So that doesn't sound a lot, but it's emotional, it's financial, it's traumatic, it's driving, it's everything. So on the 7th attempt, crossing the border, because it wasn't legal in Victoria, she fell pregnant with our boy Jack, and he's 21 next month. And then 18 months later, we had Max, and we did the same thing. It still wasn't legal in Victoria. We still had to drive across the border. We had to be psych tested before all of this to make sure we were going to be suitable to be parents. How many parents are psych tested? Not many. But we had to be because we were gay.
Does that still happen now, or it was just?
Oh no, absolutely not.
I was going to say
we're talking. No, we're talking late 90s. So
but
Jack
still, that's not that far
I know.
back. You know what I'm saying?
And same with, and this is what my boys even say to me, "Can't believe what happened to you in the army. You know, you were gay, so what?" Their attitude toward it is quite amazing. And it's that generation that really struggle with it more so, to think that was only in the 80s, really? That happened to you? Then in the 90s, this happened to us with children. But no, it's all good now. It's all fine. And gay ladies can have children in Victoria, and that's fine. But my boys, one is nearly 21 and one's 19, and they're doing really well, and they love having 3 mums, because my partner Helen and I have been together 16 years.
Congratulations.
And their birth mother, thank you, and their birth mother. So they have 3 mums, and they think it's wonderful. They get 3 presents. You know, they think it's fantastic. So, that was a real challenge. Once I got out of the military, I had another hurdle, but we got through the other side.
Yeah, you got through the fight, you know.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, the way things change, because you said you were a tomboy, and I was, but I still like the girly stuff too, you know, and I played sports. So even in the military, I played softball and basketball, and people would just make this assumption. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know." And I'm like, "You didn't know what?" And they said, you know, and I'm like, No, I just like playing sports, but
Yeah,
it was assumed,
yeah,
and even when they came out with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and people were like, oh, there aren't any gay people in the military. And I'm like, you probably served next to them and didn't even know it,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
but if we're in combat and you got my back, I really don't care that you're gay. you know
And that's exactly right. And I think Kat, this policy that we had, both countries, I believe, goes right back to World War One, World War Two, when they're in the trenches and they're out there, and we would never even comprehend, what they did and how they lived. So I don't know why that policy even existed, but that's my belief. So and when I was discharged, I thought, if you discharge every gay woman that was in the Australian Army or the Australian Defence Force, you wouldn't have a Defence Force left.
You're like, where's our forces?
Because a lot of women join the military. They find, like my mother, they find the love of their life. They get married and they get out and they have children. Well, that was never me. That was never going to be me. So I never got the opportunity to get the pension for life, because I guess you guys, after 20 years service, we get a pension for life. And I have friends. I have really dear friends that are gay that made it through, that were never victimized, singled out, that now have a pension. And live, I live quite comfortably, don't get me wrong, but it's more the principle. Yeah.
Do you think, and I'm just going back a little bit, if that had never happened and you got to do your 20 years and get your pension, do you think you would be happier then, or do you think you're happier now? Or was it one of those things where you're kind of like, yeah, that would have been great, but I'm really happy with what I have right now?
100% what you're saying, Kat, I understand, because I am an advocate now, and I go around and I talk and I educate, not just about, I just tell my story. That's all I do, and how you can go from, down here and rise above it. And that's what I've done. And at the end of my story goes for about 40 minutes when I am talking to the public. And at the end I go, but sliding doors. If that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have my two gorgeous boys. I wouldn't have this wonderful life in country Victoria with a wonderful partner of 16 years.
Exactly.
So I think this is way more important to me than having a pension for life.
Yeah.
But what you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? So at the time that happened,
yeah, you just don't know.
I didn't know
exactly.
what was ahead of me. So my life's worked out perfectly. I'm a 60-year-old lady. I'm retiring next year. I only work 3 days a week now. And I have the most supportive partner that's come through this journey with me. And since we've been living in country Victoria, I've joined so many committees because people want to hear my story, and people want me to say, well, it's okay to be gay. You can get through life, and there are little hurdles, and these are my hurdles, but fortunately for you these days, those hurdles aren't so great.
And what's most important is that you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important.
100%. Yeah.
Life is short. You got to go for it, and if you can sit there like this whole time during COVID, and they were talking about the divorce rate was going up. And I said, COVID is that time when you look at your partner and go, wow, I really do like you.
Well, that's right. Yeah. You have to like them.
You can love people, but not like them,
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So I couldn't be happier with my life. I could have the pension now and a gold card and be sitting somewhere quite miserable.
Right.
We'll never know.
Yes, you'll never know.
Yeah. But now, I'm still fighting the fight.
Yeah, of course. Now, because of that fight, you also were asked to tell your story in a book called Serving in Silence. Can you give us a little info about that?
Oh, absolutely. And I guess when I saw your podcast, the name of your podcast, it sort of made me go, ring some bells. And I thought, I'm really interested in this. It's a similar title.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working at Defence as a civilian after being out of the military, there was we had the intranet, so it's an internal internet system within the Defence Force.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this message or this email, and it came out talking about this lady, Shirlene Robinson, and Noah Reisman, both historians, were both collating stories to write a book. And the book would be titled Serving in Silence. And they were interviewing people around Australia that were current serving or ex-serving LGBTIQ members of the community. And I immediately put up my hand because I thought, now I'm free. Yes, I'm still working for Defence, but I can do this. They can't stop me. So I immediately responded to Charlene, who was up in Sydney. She's a professor in Sydney. And I said, really interested. I'm ex-serving. I currently work for Defence and I'm a lesbian. She goes, well, when can I come and talk to you? And I said, whenever you want to. She was down the next week. She flew down. And there's a hotel direct opposite the Defence building where I worked, and only one lady knew my history as a civilian. And I said to her, I'll be back in about 3 hours. She says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to tell my story. And she was like, wow, okay, I'll cover for you. I crossed the road and I went in there, and this lady sat with a microphone, a recording device, and interviewed me for 3 hours. I laughed, I cried. I was angry, I was happy. Told her about my boys, told her everything that had happened to me. And my story is now in the book called Serving in Silence. And I'm one of 14 in that story, in that book. So both Charlene and Noah Reisman, both historians, just jumped on board. They must have been interviewing, I think it started with an Aboriginal in the Defence Force and that story. And then they wanted to widen that, and they went into the LGBTIQ community. And so they wrote the book. Well, they didn't really write it. They collated the stories, and my story is in that book. And then shortly after that, they created an exhibition which travelled around Australia.
Did you get to go?
I was in it. I was part of that as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I went to the Melbourne opening and spoke at the Melbourne opening. And then it travelled around Australia. And then just recently here in Daylesford, every year we have a gay festival. It's called Chill Out. And I brought the exhibition up here to Little Daylesford. And we have a lovely place here called the Convent Gallery. And they put the exhibition on for me. For 6 weeks we had it. And the amount of people that came through looking at that exhibition and reading the history and seeing the photos, and the feedback was just phenomenal. It was just amazing. And so the Serving in Silence book turned into an exhibition, and now there's a second book out. I have Pride in Defence, and we have Serving in Silence, which is the other one. The Serving in Silence book is just 14 stories on people like myself, and then the other book is more historical all the way through, how we've changed with time. And I'm part of that book as well, which is just fabulous. So now that I have, people say, oh, you're famous, you're on the speaking circuit. Well, I'm not. All I want to do is tell people my story, and you can get through adversity
and hope somebody
come out.
Get some kind of nugget of information that'll help them. That's all you hope to do, Absolutely. Now, because of this, you and is it a friend of yours or just a local person has set up an organization, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's just Daylesford's not a very big town, and there just happens to be a guy here called Danny Liversidge. Danny's ex-RAF or Air Force, like yourself. Mm-hmm. Danny had a worse time than me. Danny had only been in for 3 years, and he'd been followed. He had photos taken. He got marched off the base. He didn't even have an opportunity, like I did, to serve my 10 years. He did 3 years and got marched off the base. And not only did he lose his job, his career, he lost his home. He lost the roof over his head. He couldn't even come back to Daylesford. It was such a small town. He was so embarrassed. To this day, I had dinner with Danny last night. He has PTSD. He's never recovered. So anyway, 2 years ago, Danny and I sat down over coffee, and we decided that we can do stuff. We can help others. There's got to be other people out there. Here we are in Daylesford, and there's 2 of us. How many people are there? So we've created a little organisation called Discharged LGBTIQ Veterans Association, and we have a webpage, and we're just there. We're just there to help anybody that wants to chat. And now I've got RSL Victoria on board, and if you, for example, contacted our organisation and I could tell you my story and say we got through it, but you needed more help than that, we would put you onto RSL Victoria, or we'd send you off to Open Arms. Open Arms are our it's a support system here in Australia that helps veterans that need have mental health issues, and I've reached out to Open Arms personally for myself just this week. Because it's now becoming, I guess, because I'm telling my story so often, it's resurfaced. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I've
but
reached out to
there
open
are things that
arms.
you forget. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I forgot about, and you're telling your story, and all of a sudden that's a sentence comes out, and you're like, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
right.
brings up some emotions,
Absolutely.
as it should.
Absolutely. And although some people have just wiped their hands and said, oh, well, that happened to me 30 years ago, I thought that would be me. But then when I started reaching out and telling my story, especially in the book, it was so cathartic for me. And then I thought, hey, I'm on a roll here. I can help others. It's not just about poor old Yvonne. So Danny and I now have this organisation, and we reach out to anybody that needs help, that feel like when I was a 23-year-old gay lady, thought I was the only one in the world. There's people out there in the same situation that were discharged because of their sexuality that can reach out to us as well.
That's such an amazing endeavor that you're taking on. And it sounds like you're just on this path, like, you went from pavement to like rocks and like no direction. And all of a sudden you found it. And it's just taking you on this journey. What do you hope to accomplish, with your organization, with your book? What does the next year look like? Are you going to be traveling around the world, doing your, talking to people? I want to know, because if you're going to be, in the United States, I'm like, I have to go see her.
It's really funny that you say that, because my partner just keeps saying, well, when you're on the speaking circuit, can I retire? And I go, I don't know if I'm going to get to that anytime soon. But ironically, another lady friend here in Daylesford, she's a gay lady, but not ex-serving. She knows Greta, Marguerite Kammermeyer, Serving in Silence, the real Serving in Silence. She knows her. And so I've reached out to Greth, I think they call her now. I've reached out to her. We're friends on Facebook, and I sent her the book because the movie Serving in Silence was about her, and Glenn Close played that part.
Yeah.
And so it's quite amazing that, and I sent her a copy of the book and I signed it and I said, have a read of this. And she was very grateful. People are now saying to me, in answer to your question, who's going to play you in the role Serving in Silence? and I said, well, it can't be Glenn Close. She's already done it. So the next year, I don't know, just ramping up our association and reaching out to anyone that needs it. And I've done a lot of, I think I mentioned to you previously that I was contacted late last year during COVID to do a podcast with a mental health organisation.
Mm-hmm.
Just telling my story. I don't get anything out of it except, well, I do. I get a lot out of it. I get a lot out of it if I can help one person. That's wonderful.
Right.
Just over here, I live in country Victoria, as I said, and we've got paddocks just out here and kangaroos. And above that, I see kangaroos every day.
Do you?
There's an aged care facility. It's called Hepburn House. And there, because we have a lot of LGBTI members in our community here, and the aged care facility is looking at opening up a new wing for LGBTI and friends. So I've been on that committee, and I've told my story. And it's been tough at times trying to tell men in particular that had served in Vietnam or World War II or wherever, that I'm a gay lady, but this is who I am. They generally get up and walk out because they don't understand. Right. And my dad was a Korean War vet, and he died knowing I was gay. But, well, he was proud of me, but he never knew why I discharged. My mum never knew why I discharged. Yeah. She died not knowing why I discharged. So what I do now is I just go and talk to people and help people where I can. And I get a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction out of that.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question. So in the United States, we say LGBTQ and you say LGBTI. What is the I for?
Intersexual. Intersex.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So there's so many letters now, isn't there? There's LGBTIQ. And now we even have a plus on the end over here just to add anybody that's not in that sort of LGBTIQ. Right. Then we have a plus as well. Mm-hmm. And one thing that just happened to me recently, which was quite amazing, was when we had our Chill Out Festival, the gay festival here in March. I was approached by the festival coordinator saying, I have an organisation there. They're called Homophonic. They are an ensemble of singers and bass, violin, piano. They want to hear your story and they want to put it into music. So I spoke to a composer by the name of Carwyn Martin. Carwyn Martin created this piece, And then at Chill Out, they played my piece, and it's called I Am Who I Am. And it's the most amazing piece of music, and I can send that to you if you're interested.
So a book,
a highlight
a
of my
song,
life.
an exhibition. I mean, yeah, the movie's now. You got to do the movie now. Come on, you know. Yvonne, it's been such a pleasure having you on Sisters in Service. If someone wants to reach out to you, how would someone find you?
We have the DLVA website, info at DLVA, or they can just reach out to me at my Hotmail address, and I'm happy to give that, YvonneSillett@hotmail.com.
Got it. Well, it's been so much fun talking to you, and I'm sure that someone will be listening to this and saying, yeah, I totally understand what she went through, you know, or they can just understand it. And again, if you want, you know, you're trying to help one person at a time, which is what I'm trying to do with this podcast. If one person listens to it and gets one little nugget of information that helps them, then I've done my job, you know.
Absolutely, you have. Yeah. And I love what you're doing, and I appreciate you reaching out to us down under. It's been fabulous.
It's been so much fun. So thank you so much, Yvonne. I will be in touch. For everyone else, I hope you enjoyed hearing Yvonne's story. And again, please be safe. Take care of you. And until next time.